Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. It's week 3 of your college football season and of our college football season, and we are back to pick 4 more games for you. Carla, how you doing down there in Nashville?
I'm okay. How are you?
I am melting. It is ridiculously, stupidly hot for Pittsburgh in mid-September. We're going to get some relief in a couple of days, but that's part of the reason I'm doing this downstairs and not up in my office, because it's just too freaking hot up there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really kind of don't want to hear that because it's hot here, too. It's Nashville. It's although this weekend is supposed to be gorgeous this weekend.
Yes.
So a couple more days of this, and then
Friday's supposed to be like gray and 59, and I'm going to love it. And everybody else is like, I'm like, shut up. This is going to be perfect. That probably means the weather's going to be pretty nice at noon on Saturday when UCLA travels to Nebraska. Nebraska is a 4.5-point favorite. I am dubious about that, but we'll get into why in a minute. Carla, what do you see about this one?
Well, the biggest thing that I remember about this is the fact that this is a home-and-home series, and it's one of about, it seems like 14. It's not. I know there's not that many teams in each conference, but it's one of a bunch of Big Ten, Pac-12 matchups this weekend, all of which are pretty intriguing. We could have talked about any of them, but this one holds some intrigue because UCLA won this game last year. It was in LA. UCLA won the game, and it was kind of that first game of the year when we saw UCLA go, whoa. UCLA just beat Nebraska, and it kind of put UCLA on the map, really, last year. This game was kind of the landmark game. I don't think our friends that wear big, giant ears of corn on their head are going to forget that, and I think that adds some motivation into this game because of that. Now, there are a couple things. You did mention it's an early kick. I mean, that's like a 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff time for those kids from UCLA, so there's, advantage Nebraska. The other thing that's not so much fun to talk about is the fact that UCLA has dealt with some not so pleasant things this week. Some tragedies that you don't ever want a team to go through in the death of a wide receiver, and the fact that they were dealing with that. Mora closed practices this week, didn't make his kids available to media. And then they have to get on a plane to go to Lincoln, Nebraska. That's a lot to overcome in a week, especially with the Nebraska's trying to seek revenge from this game last year. So I am going to edge Nebraska in this game, but I think it's going to be another 36-30 kind of back and forth affair between the two teams. So what say you?
Okay. I think that's exactly right. We are very much aware of what Nebraska's offense is capable of. We don't have as much track record as far as this season to go on for UCLA, having played just one game, I think, against Nevada. The question I have, the variable here in my mind is Nebraska's defense. The Black Shirts are not and haven't been for several years. You look at last year, you gave up 63 points to Ohio State, gave up 70 to Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, and you mentioned these two teams played last year, and Nebraska gave up 36 there. I do see Nebraska winning this. I think it's going to be a ridiculously fun game to watch because there's going to be a ton of scoring, as you said. 36-30, 42-35, something like that. But I see Nebraska winning an up and down battle. Next, this is the one game on the schedule that we pretty much have to talk about. Alabama visiting Texas A&M. The Aggies, of course, were the only team to hang a loss on the Crimson Tide a year ago. That was at Alabama. This one is in College Station, where Alabama is a 7.5-point favorite. What do you think?
Well, I went back and looked, and this is the one thing I did research on and failed miserably. Because I went back to look because I was thinking to myself, how many times has Alabama lost to the same opponent in back-to-back years? I mean, it can't be that many, right? And then you don't have to go back that far, and LSU beat them in consecutive years in 2010, 2011. So it's really not that much of an anomaly for it to happen. So yes, it's in College Station. There's some momentum there, and boy, this game just got a heck of a lot more interesting today.
Right.
With the report that came out today, and just a little bit ago, according to Twitter, Nick Saban apparently walked out of his press conference. So yeah, SEC. So I mean, what do you say at this point? So yeah, this game just got a lot more interesting. I still think Alabama wins it, because I think overall Alabama is the better team. I think they've got the better offensive cohesion. I think there's a lot of turmoil still at A&M. I think we saw that in the first week of the season. And the pressure's been on A&M. We've been talking about this game since since Alabama won the national title last year. That's a lot of pressure. Yes, he won the Heisman. Yes, Johnny Football won the Heisman, but he's a sophomore that has shown maturity issues. On this stage, I'm going to go with your senior quarterback who has some experience in 2 national championship rings. So I think Alabama wins this game.
Okay. My pick might be based on what I want to see happen, which involves Johnny Manziel with broken legs. But I agree. I think the experience here is going to make the difference. I also don't buy the notion that Manziel isn't a distraction at Texas A&M. For the last 2 weeks, since the Rice game, everyone is going out of their way to say, no, he's fine. Locker room's fine, no big deal. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. These are college kids, and they're the most visible person on the team is behaving like a jerk, to put it mildly. I don't see that isn't a problem for them, and that's going to manifest itself on Saturday. May not be a huge win, may not be 7.5 points, but Alabama's going to win this one at College Station. To next on our list chronologically, I finally get to talk about a legit Ohio State football game. Woohoo! My Buckeyes visit Cal in what is a night game here on the East Coast, but not so much on the West Coast. There is no line for this game because of Braxton Miller's injury a week ago. He is day-to-day. No decision on whether or not he's going to play. Frankly, I'd be okay if he sat this weekend next. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Carla, what do you think about this one?
Well, I'm going to let you do most of the work on this one because obviously this is a game you have a vested interest in. But I do know one thing is that Cal last week trailed to Portland State in the third quarter.
Yes.
I think that's probably pretty much all I need to say about this game. I think we talked during our preseason show that, on paper at the beginning, back when this game was put on the schedule, it looked like it was going to be one of those big stellar matchups at, 2 powerhouse teams, and it's just not. Cal's just not there this year. I mean, they're still kind of floundering a bit, obviously, if you're trailing to Portland State in the third quarter at home. This might be as big of a win for your Buckeyes as last week was. I seriously see that happening.
That could be. I see Cal scoring more, and that's one of the reasons I want to talk about this. I think this has potential to make me uncomfortable, at least for a little while. And if you recall, a year ago, Cal really pushed Ohio State. That game was in Columbus. As we saw after Braxton Miller's injury last week, Ohio State's offense really didn't slow down a whole lot with Kenny Guyton at quarterback. They dialed back on some of the play calling, but the offense was still impressive. Cal's has no defense. Ohio State's defense is talented but young. It got better last week when Bradley Roby returned from his 1-game suspension. But I see this as a this could be the 50 to 30 range, somewhere in there. Even a game that non-Ohio State fans might enjoy watching. But goes without saying, Ohio State's going to win this one. Our final game on the slate, Ole Miss visits a reeling Texas on Saturday night. Reeling. We didn't get to the picks we made last week. We are both even on the season, and I was for a week ago. I picked BYU to beat Texas. I did not think 40-21 was going to be how that went.
Yeah.
So what do you see happening with the Longhorns this week?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Because yeah, you give up 550 yards of rushing, to a BYU. I mean, BYU just they literally ran all over them. I mean, that was the worst. That was the worst defensive rushing performance in Texas school history. It got Manny Diaz fired. So they have a brand new defensive coordinator this week, and they have two more hurdles to overcome in the fact that offensively, Daje Johnson is out, and so far he's been like the one standout guy on offense. He's already ruled out, and David Ash is still questionable. So okay, so we've already got this questionable defense, right? That obviously can't stop anybody, and now the offensive questions, which have been kind of hiding under all this because their defense is so bad. Yeah, and then comes Ole Miss, and we remember Ole Miss from the Vandy game on the first opening night of the season. That's an offense capable of being extremely explosive in circumstances. Yes, they could be downright sluggish in others, but Jeff Scott breaks a couple. I mean, he broke one here, in Nashville in that moment when everybody thought that Vandy was going to win the game, and then all of a sudden Jeff Scott rips off a 75-yard run to beat Vandy. I mean, I honestly think Ole Miss wins this game, and I think that the Longhorn faithful finally get to that breaking point, and that hot seat gets even hotter for Mac Brown. I really think if Ole Miss wins this game, something changes next week. I really believe that.
I like Mac Brown. I think he's run a good program. I think he's a good guy, and I think he's in real trouble. Because I think Ole Miss is going to win this game as well. Obviously, Texas, without the injuries that you talked about, maybe Texas comes back home and is able to kind of focus a little bit and figure out the mistakes that they made a week ago at Brigham Young. But the pressure has not stopped. The injuries present a whole new set of challenges. Coaching change in the middle of the week, in the middle of the season. This team, I don't see where this team is able to focus on making things right. And you got to play, a ranked SEC team at home. That's a bad time to be in the shape that the Longhorns are in. And I think Ole Miss wins. And as you said, that's really, really bad news for Mac Brown. But we will see how that goes, and maybe have something to talk about when we come back here next week. Since we're not talking about, there's a second week in a row I'm not going to mention my underpants.
You had to, didn't you?
I'm going to figure out a way to do this pretty much all season, probably. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's all we got. Another 4 entertaining games on the slate, plus all the rest of the college football, more than you can handle. Carla, we will see you next week.
Yes, we will. Can I make one more note?
Please.
Just for funsies?
Yes.
Kansas is an underdog at Rice.
That is fun. I like that. That's good.
Just saying, welcome to college football. Yeah, this is a good slate of games. I think those 4 were good. There's going to be some sleepers on this week, but yeah, Rice is favored over Kansas.
Oh boy, I'm going to have to find that one on TV somewhere. That's all we got, guys. Thank you once again for watching us, Carla. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy your game.
Thank you. You too. We will see you guys next week.